Hello learners, today we are going to discuss planning and implementation of library automation. This is the unit 2 of module 1 library automation under paper 6 information technology application. In this lecture, we will discuss the following parts. What is library automation and why is it needed? What are the steps associated with library planning process? Critical elements associated with each step of library automation planning. The importance of RFP, that is request for proposal, in library automation. What are the important standards that are to be followed in library management software? Some modular function of library management system. And the important point is that implementation strategy for effective library automation. And last but not least, what are the key factors behind the success of library automation? Let's start. To start the topic, we need to understand what is automation. Traditionally, library automation means the application of computer and communication technology to mechanize typical library housekeeping operations such as acquisition, cataloging, circulation, serial control, etc. to eliminate or reduce the manual works. It may apply to automate some library function such as cataloging, OPAC, or maybe circulation. It may also be applied to all library functions from acquisition to reference service via cataloging, circulation, serial control, all the modules. So library automation process can adopt three routes. One is the piecemeal approach, one is the phased approach, on the integrated approach. In the piecemeal approach, installation of one module like cataloging module to offer OPAC. In the phased approach, that is phased approach is a planned approach towards integrated system. First cataloging module was done, then OPAC started, then circulation, then acquisition, then serial control. In this way, they are planning towards an integrated library automation system. And the third way is that it can go directly for a fully integrated system to cover operation of all subsystem in the library. The next question is, why is it needed? Why library automation is needed? If we look into contemporary information ecosystem, we'll see information are now available in diverse digital format along with print format. There is also exponential growth of information. It is almost impossible to manage this whole gamut of information by manual system. Also, automation saves the times and efforts involved in manual processing by eliminating repetitive clerical jobs done by the library staff. It also enhances speed of library function as well as quality and efficiency of services. Ranganathan, in his fourth law, stated save the time of readers. Through this law, he recognized the importance of internal efficiency of the library to maximize user satisfaction and to minimize time loss of the user. This can perhaps be better achieved through library automation. Library automation also increases the optimal use of library resources. It also encourages more user-centric services. The third is that what are the steps involved in the planning process of library automation? Selecting, procuring, and introducing an automated system in library is a very complex process. So proper planning is required. The level of formal procedure in planning and implementation of automation may vary according to the library preference, according to its nature, and according to its function. However, at the most general level, the library needs to identify who will be involved in the automation, when, and for what purpose in the automating process of the library. Planning thus involves deciding beforehand what is to be done, when is to be done, how is it to be done, and who is going to do it. So, it is a kind of blueprint of the course of action to be followed in the future to achieve the desired goal. In the library automation planning process, one may follow the steps as shown in the slides. Define the visions and objectives, analyze the existing state, identify the alternatives, evaluate alternatives and select, then implementation process, then monitoring and controlling, and the project proposal. The vision statement is a vivid description of how does one want to see library in the future. It may be stated in a fashion that must align with overall mission of the institute and library. Objectives should follow the SMART principle: specific, measurable, and achievable, realistic, and time bound. The next step is analyze the existing state of the library. Analyzing existing state of the library needs a systematic study to assess the existing situation of the library. And whenever one is or a team is assessing the existing situation of the library, it must include the four important dimensions. First is the resource. In the resource, what is the collection size? Diversity of resources available in the library. Diversity in regards of their types, the language, their format, location of resources. Sometimes library may not be confined in a single place or single building. It may be dispersed within the campus in different location. So location of resources is very much important for networking purpose and for automation. The second is the technology. What is the existing technology? What are the hardwares? Is there any computer in the library, or it is entirely manual work, manual dependent? Network system. Is there any LAN? What is the speed of the LAN? What is the speed of internet? Network, just network is important. And the software, what are the software used in the library? That are very much important. Third and most important dimension is the human dimension, because it is the human who will carry out the library automation. Thus, it requires to understand the human dimension in depth. What are the number of library staffs available in the library? What are their proficiency in use of technology, as well as their competencies? The fourth dimension is the use dimension. What are the number of users? Number of users can vary from library to library. In a big university library, the number of users will go more than 30,000 or like that one. In a small special library, it may be 200, maybe 300. So number of users is a factor. Types of services. What are the kinds of services provided by the library? Because in a special library, services may be the different. In the academic library, in the public library, the services, types of services may be the different. One has to understand the types of services provided by the library. Third is the usage statistics. What is the usage statistics? Because usage statistics will also differ. If the usage is high, then you have to think about that when you plan for a server, the server configuration, the software condition has to be taken care of. After analyzing the existing state of the library, the next step is to identify the alternatives for the library process. There is a quite good number of library management software available in the marketplace. Moreover, there is a rapid evolution in the computers and communication technology. The widespread use of internet, increasing number of digital library initiatives, availability of web to tools, rise of cloud computing, evolving linked open data system have completely changed the information behavior of users, as well as technological complexities around library automation. Compliance with standard for a library system is thus more crucial than ever. But which standards are important when considering a library system? What services are necessary for the next generation library users? What software architecture is suitable for rapidly changing computing environment? What data formats are most comprehensive? And how can one determine that a commercially available ILS or an open source ILS is more suitable and complies with the global standard related to the functional subsystem of the library? Here lies the importance of developing RFP for library automation. The process of identifying alternatives thus may start with the preparing a request for proposal or a RFP. The RFP process is useful in identifying the needs and priority areas, including future plans. Determining the requirements, prescribing standard compliance needs, devising services to be offered, developing selecting criteria for our LMS, and it should act as a guideline or guiding documents for library managers in course of action. So a careful market survey by a team of specialists is essential before preparing RFP. Familiarities with technology adoption procedure and status of the similar library may be an added advantage in designing RFP. Then our question is that what should be the primary components RFP? The primary components of RFP should start with the background of information about the library. The background information should be the mission, visions, goals with its existing state as told in the vision and mission slides. The second is that detailed statement of needs. What are the objectives of the library automation? What are the needs for compliance with the standard for a library system? What are the service level requirements? What are the functional requirements? Third, the system requirements and specification. In this category, the type of question may arise. What specific measures of the system must be present? What are the infrastructural requirements? what are the software level requirements, and in the evaluation criteria method, the components may be that what are the critical factors that must be present, how to frame parameters for evaluating different responses against RFP, what should be the method of for evaluating ILS products, and time schedule is very much important. So what are the steps, activities, and when should it be finished? What are the priority level of required activities? What should be the schedule of completion of task? Next, the vendor name, contact address. Who are the potential ILS vendors that may satisfy the library requirement? How these vendors can become contacted? Who are the third party service providers for potential open source ILS? So, when evaluating, the next step is the evaluating LMS, library management software. For this, the first, as mentioned in the RFP, the first is that what are the technology used? Is it obsolete? Is it going to obsolete in near future? Because earlier we have seen many library automation software are developed in Visual Foxhole, which is no longer used. So technology used is one of the crucial requirement in the LMS. Second is that one functionality provided, because what we have some requirement, functional requirement. Oh, means is it they provided these functional requirements? Conforming standards. What are the standards we confirm? And updating frequency, because library with the evolving technology, the library software, LMS library management, they also update. So what is the update frequency? And most important part is that feedback on customer service and adoption status. That's when we ask for the tender in library, we always mention that please mention which are the reputed institution or Indian institution that are using your software or your product, so that from their list we can also contact to the library, that library, and get their feedback. Feedback is very much important on to select the library. So feedback from different libraries also will help a informed decision. And the important part is cost, because in many in library we are always paucity of fund. Library always have the less fund. So it is very much required that the LMS should be cost effective. After the selection or in selecting the some example of modular requirements. What are the modular requirements that are that should be present in the library automation? This is an example many of you knows. For example, in catalog, I have shown just 3 modules that will be available in your textbook also. In the cataloging module, standard format support. What are the standard format support? Mark 21 authority control. This is one of the requirement. Unicode compliant, because sometimes because library now have the book in multiple language, and Unicode compliance is very much important. And Z39.5 copy cataloging facility, because it it is without Z39.5 there will be a duplicacy of work, because the book has been already catalogued in OCLC catalog or that Library of Congress. From there we can copy the catalog. Share cataloging system, virtual keyboard support, these are essential part of the cataloging module. In case of the acquisition, suggestion module, ordering, receiving, inquiries, vendor database provision, budget. and fund accounting. This is important. Bill processing and accessoring. These are the general acquisition module. And in circulation module, first of all, the patron creation should be there. Privilege setup means different categories of users have different privilege. What is the circulation rule? Issue return renewal facilities, reservation facilities, fine calculation, reminder and recall. These are just example I have given. The next question is that what are the standards that should be present in the library management software? ISO 2709, that is Mark 21 or Unimark or CCFB. This is for bibliographic data interoperability. This is very much needed. The second is that Z39.50 protocol, that standard for distributed cataloging, and Z39.71 standard for holding requirements. And nowadays, many libraries are going for the RFID system. For the RFID system, that therefore one should take care whether it was ISO CD 28560 from 1 to 3. Next is Mark XML premise for preservation of metadata. SRU search and retrieve URL and web service. SRU SRW is very much needed for search and retrieving, and OAI PMH too for metadata harvesting. These are some important standards that should be present in the library automation software, so that if we sometimes if we change from one software to another software, that will be helpful if the data is in standard format or comply to the international standard. Then the selection of library management software and hardware. While we are selecting, we have already discussed. Ease of use is one of the first criteria. RFP score, request for proposal score, cost effectiveness, feedback of existing users that I have already told, and hardware compatibility. And it should be remembered that selection of library management software should be a team decision, not to be an individual decision, because that will help to democratize the library management software selection. Higher consideration may take following factors: technological currency, because suppose you wanted to get a server, and if you take a server that is on i3 or something like that one, that are very old, that may not be judicious decision. So in technological currencies, because when nowadays every 10 years the technology get outdated, so we should select the hardware which have the technological currency. And scalability is important actually for server, because we may not have the fund to to take the very high configured uh, server. But if here the scale, if it is scalable, so with the time we can increase its capacity. And market reputation is one of the factors. That suppose, for example, a HP server or Dell server or something like that one, GN server, that are very much used in the market, we must think about that one, that this would be a good option. The next is the consideration of open source software or cloud system. In case of considering open source software for library management, the following points needs to be considered. Whenever you select an open source software, its community size is very much important, because higher the community size, higher will be the means frequency of bug fixation will be higher, and you will get support from the community as early as possible, as well as it will be a very much effective. The second is the frequency of new release or bug fixation. Generally, if the community size and community of developers around the open source around the open source software is higher, then the frequency of new release and bug fixation is generally very quick. A number of potential service providers. This is very much important because suppose one library has taken an open source software. They have one staff who is very much uh, competent, use that server. He has left the institution. What will be the sustainability of that software? So in that case, generally, if an open source software has been supported by several vendors, for example, Koha, take an example of Koha. Koha is now is an open source software that has been supported by several vendors. So if one vendor is telling that we will provide this service and the cost is that, another vendor is telling that no, we will provide this much service and the cost is that, so that we can have that very competitive market, and there we can take a judicious decision and informed decision for this one. So if the number of potential service providers is high, then it is generally assumed that the open source software is very much successful and very much used in the market. So it is one of the criteria. The fourth is that competency of the library staff. Sometimes library staff, like whenever we take a commercial vendor software, whenever some problem, they will call to the vendor. In case of open source software, the library staff has a very opportunity to experiment with the system. If the library have a very good, young, energetic, and the techno-savvy staffs, then library may go for the open source software. Otherwise, they have to entirely depend on the potential service providers. While selecting vendor for open source software or the cloud option, the following points may be considered. Number of similar libraries using the service, their cloud services. From their feedback, one can take informed decision. Feedback from multiple users give a good overview of the system. The technological infrastructure, when in case of the cloud, technological infrastructure present in the vendor, they have a good server, they have a backup facility. All these things need to be taken care of if they have a technological good infrastructure. Their customer support system, they may have a good technological infrastructure and they are very good in software design or the bug fixing, everything. Whether their customer support system is good or not, whether whenever whenever we are taking a cloud option, suppose there is a problem, we need immediate solution. Otherwise, in library automation software, everything will get standstill. So customer support system is very much important in the cloud system. And the most important is the cost. What is the initial cost? What is the AMC? Is it meter billing system? These are very much important. And whenever we are thinking about cloud system versus the in-house infrastructure, then we have to measure the cost of two system and which is more beneficial in long term. We have to think on that one. The next is the implementation part of the library automation. Site preparation. Site preparation means installation of computer, network preparation. All these things need to be established. After all these things, we need the installation of the software and testing for few weeks. And then training. Training is the very much important because if it is a new software, then training of the library staff important because they will carry out the entire automation work. Fourth is that one, devising procedural details of adoption. Will it be the phase wise or the simultaneous use of modules? What could be the prioritization of tasks, job distribution, who will do what work, data conversion. Suppose one library migrate from one software to other software, or they have in the Excel data sheet. So conversion of this data into the software format, it very much important. And during the conversion, data integrity issue is very much important. And in case of fresh data entry, what are the minimum requirements? Means what are the fields to be filled? At least that should be there. And what are the maximum information that may be give to the in the cataloging module? Or in case of the students patron category, creating a patron, we need what are the information should be there. How to maintain the integrity of authority files. Sometimes when we do the cataloging, there are authority files, keywords, subject authority files. How to maintain that integrity? Because software system, they do not understand semantic meaning. They will understand only that key. So maintaining integrity of authority files is very much important. Last but not in least, what are the data security arrangement? What is the data backup? And in case of there is any problem, what is the data recovery method? So during implementation, these points need to be taken care of. Implementation, during implementation, the monitoring and the controlling part is very much important. Monitoring and controlling of the system performance, vendor support system, data quality checking, progress checking against timeline. Suppose you have assigned some works to some staff, how much progress is doing? What is the progress in the cataloging module? What is the progress in suppose acquisition module? These are very much important. And if any difficulties arises, reporting and removing difficulties is very much important. Suppose during cataloging, one cannot do that print in the Bengali language. Though it has, they have told that that support the Unicode, but they are not able to do that one. So to fix, to report and removing difficulties is very much important. Sometimes alternative remedial measures, some problem arises that should be monitored and controlled. And at last, we need to understand what are the key factor of success in library automation, because library automation is a very difficult job, because a manager has to pursue the authority for fund. He has to pursue his library staff for technological change. Then he has to motivate the staff for adoption of the technology, as well as he has to sometimes the during automation the service affected. He has to be answerable to the users and why it is being done. So there are so many factors associated with the success of a library automation. So the important aspect of library automation success, first and foremost, the managerial skills of coordinators, because it is the coordinator who has to carry out the work. Managers with excellent skill, communication skill, as well as motivating skills may be in a good position for successful library automation. Administrative support is very much required in the library automation, because administrative support not only fund for the technology from ICT department, this administrative support is very much required. Availability of competent staff in the library, this is very much important. If a library has many young, competent, techno-savvy person, then it is relatively easier to continue automation or to successfully complete automation. Availability of infrastructure, that is very much important. If we have a good infrastructure, then library automation is relatively easier. But if you have given a computer, very old computer, sometimes it got short or do not support the new system, new software, then it is very difficult. So availability of infrastructure is very much required. And third is the how much user centric. You do automate the library, but it is not user centric. User interface is not very compatible to the user, and it is very ease of use, it's very less. So automation, two aspect, one is the user satisfaction, another is that completion of the automation at the internal level. So these are the critical factors that are very much important for the success of a library automation. I have given some bibliography and the question I have added. Thank you. Thank you all. দেখে নাও একবার এবারে আমি এটা নিয়ে